In this module, we will study the trade linkages of a domestic economy with the world economy through goods market and money market. National economies are increasingly becoming open economies, with world prices and output affecting the domestic prices and output. Balance sheet of the central bank is changed to include the balance of payment account, which is the record of all the transactions of the residents of a country with the rest of the world. Balance of payment account includes the current account and capital account. Current account records all the transactions in goods and services as well as transfer payments, whereas capital account records all the transactions in the financial assets like stocks, bonds, lands, etc. Here, the main focus of this module is on the current account only. Current account balances gives the excess of country's demand for exports over its imports. It is also called the balance of trade. In other words, CA is equals to X minus M, where CA stands for current account balance, X stands for exports and M stands for imports. Thus, current account balance increases with exports but decreases with imports. The two main factors that determine the current account balance of any economy are, first, real exchange rates, that is the price of the domestic currency in terms of foreign currency, and second is the domestic disposable income, that is the income of the country's own residents after paying the taxes. Writing in equation form, we have CA is equals to CA bracket EP star divided by P comma YD bracket close, where EP star divided by P stands for the real exchange rates, E is equals to nominal exchange rate. P star stands for foreign by world price level. P stands for the domestic price level. YD is the domestic disposable income. An increase in disposable income increases the demand for imports, worsening the trade balance, while an increase in EP star divided by P or relative price of domestic goods in terms of foreign currency makes the domestic goods cheaper in comparison to the foreign goods, increasing the demand for domestic goods. Thus, an increase in EP star divided by P has a positive effect on exports. However, an increase in the EP star divided by P has ambiguous effect on imports. M in equation denotes the value of imports measured in terms of domestic output and not the volume of foreign products imported. Thus, even if actual amount of goods imported falls, the rise in the price of imports may increase the value of goods imported. Thus, a rise in EP star divided by P can have a positive or negative effect on imports. However, economist Alfred Marshall and Abba P. Lerner have given a condition under which a change in the exchange rate or say depreciation in the exchange rates can have a positive effect on the balance of trade. This condition is known as Marshall-Lerner condition, which states that the depreciation of exchange rates will lead to an improvement in the balance of trade if the absolute sum of the long-run export and import demand elasticities is equals to or greater than 1. Empirically, it has been observed that initially with depreciation of exchange rates, there is a fall in balance of trade. But over time, imports respond to increase in the relative price and they start decreasing, leading to an improvement in the balance of trade. This is explained by the famous J-curve effect. Interested readers can read Dornbusch 2011 or Krugman and Opsfeld of 2008. In the next two sections, we will describe the equilibrium in the goods market and the money market for an open economy in the short run. Following them, we will explain how fiscal and monetary policy changes affect the aggregate demand and output in the open economies.
After studying this module, you shall be able to know the concept of trade balance, learn Marshall-Lerner condition, understand the equilibrium for an open economy, learn how to depict trade balance, that is surplus or deficit, graphically, identify the effects of fiscal and monetary policy changes on the trade balance. Now, we study the goods market equilibrium in open economy. Goods market is in equilibrium where the demand for goods and services is equals to its supply. For an open economy, equilibrium in goods market is attained when y is equals to c, a function of yd, plus I plus g plus ca, a function of ep star by p and yd, where y stands for aggregate demand or output, C stands for consumption demand as a function of disposable income, YD stands for disposable income, YD is equals to Y minus T or income less taxes, I is the investment demand, and G is the government expenditure. Thus, aggregate demand in an open economy denoted by D is a function of domestic output, taxes, real exchange rates, and investment demand and government expenditure. In other words, D is equals to Y is equals to D, which is a function of EP star by P, comma, Y minus T, comma, I, comma, G. In order to know the effect of any policy change on the trade balance, we need to plot aggregate demand curve on output price space. However, note that in comparison to a closed economy, price is now not given by P but by EP star by P. The analysis shows how to make aggregate demand or output curve in the goods market for an open economy. Now we will discuss the effect of change in the relative prices on aggregate demand or output, that is also known as the derivation of demand curve. Consider the diagram, which shows output and aggregate demand. Consider panel A first. In equilibrium, the two should be equal, given by 45-degree line. AD naught is the aggregate demand curve in the goods market. Given domestic and foreign price level same or P and P star constant, an increase in nominal exchange rate E will make the domestic goods cheaper in comparison to foreign goods, leading to an increase in aggregate demand, assuming Marshall-Lerner condition holds. This shifts the AD curve to AD1, increasing the output from Y0 to Y1. Similarly, given P and P star, if there is a fall in nominal exchange rates, it will make domestic goods expensive in comparison to foreign goods, leading to a decrease in aggregate demand. This shifts AD curve downward to AD2, reducing the output to Y2. Thus, there is a positive relationship between exchange rates and aggregate demand and output. Plotting this relationship between output and nominal exchange rates on YE plane, we get an upward sloping demand curve, which is DD curve. The 3 points E0, E1, and E2 are plotted against output and exchange rates. Hence, the curve we get is the DD curve, which shows all the combinations of output and exchange rates at which goods market is in equilibrium in the short run. Note that this curve is plotted assuming that domestic and foreign price levels are given and Marshall-Lerner condition holds. The slope of DD curve is given by the change in the output to the change in the exchange rates or delta Y by delta E. Since DD curve is upward sloping, delta Y by delta E should be greater than 0. The position of DD curve is affected by the change in any of the exogenous variable like change in investment demand, government expenditure, domestic or foreign price level, change in taxes, or a change in domestic or foreign demand functions. Now we will move on to the next topic, which is money market equilibrium in an open economy. Money market is in equilibrium when the demand for real balances is equals to its supply. In other words, M by P is equals to L, which is a function of I and Y, where M denotes nominal money stock and I stands for domestic interest rates. However, according to interest parity condition, foreign exchange market is in equilibrium when the return on domestic currency is equals to the expected return on foreign currency. In other words, I is equals to I star plus e to the power small e minus e by e, where I star stands for world interest rate and e to the power of small e stands for the expected nominal exchange rate. Thus, we get that money market is in equilibrium when M by P is equals to L, which is a function of I star plus E to the power small e minus E by E, comma Y. In order to know the effect of any policy change on the balance of trade, we need to plot money market equilibrium on output and exchange rate space. The next analysis shows how to derive money market equilibrium in YE space. Effect of change in the nominal exchange rates on money market equilibrium, that is derivation of AA curve. Consider the diagram, which shows money market equilibrium and the relationship between domestic interest rates and nominal exchange rates. There are three panels to this figure. Panel A shows the relationship between real money balances and interest rates. Assuming that nominal money supply and domestic price level is given, real money supply is given at M bar pi p, thus it is a straight vertical line. Money demand is as usual downward sloping, showing negative relation between interest rates and real money balances. L1, which is a function of Y1, is the original money demand curve. If income or output in the economy increases, money demand increases, shifting the curve to the right to L2, which is a function of Y2, where Y2 is greater than Y1. An increase in income or output raises the interest rates from I1 to I2 to maintain money market equilibrium. Panel B. Panel B shows the equilibrium in the foreign exchange market. An increase in interest rates from I1 to I2 increases the returns on domestic assets in comparison to foreign assets. Given the foreign interest rates fixed at I star and the interest parity condition, it leads to an appreciation of exchange rates or nominal exchange rates decreases from E1 to E2. Thus, to make money market in equilibrium, exchange rates appreciate just enough to offset the effect of the increase in output. Panel C thus shows a negative relationship between domestic output and nominal exchange rates given the domestic and foreign price level fixed. This curve is AA curve. Figure shows AA curve on output exchange rate space. All else equal, it is downward sloping, showing inverse relationship between output and nominal exchange rates. The slope of AA curve is given by the change in output to the change in the exchange rates, or delta Y by delta E. Since AA curve is downward sloping, so delta Y by delta E would be less than 0. The position of AA curve is affected by the change in any of the exogenous variable like change in money supply, expected exchange rates, foreign interest rates, foreign or domestic price level, or change in real money demand. Let us now discuss the short-run equilibrium combination of AA-DD curve. Combining DD and AA curves together on output exchange rate space gives us the equilibrium level of output and exchange rates when both goods market and the asset market are in equilibrium simultaneously. This is shown in figure. AA and DD curves intersect at point O, giving equilibrium level of output Y0 and equilibrium level of nominal exchange rate of E0. If the economy is on any other point other than point O, adjustments will take place in both goods and assets market to reach the equilibrium at point O. Note that in the money market, adjustments to the equilibrium is faster than in the goods market. Thus, any disequilibrium point O will first lead to the economy to adjust itself to get back to the money market equilibrium and then adjust to the goods market equilibrium. Now we introduce trade balance curve in AA-DD diagram. As mentioned above, current account balances when exports are equals to imports. However, generally exports are not equals to imports and high trade imbalance create political pressures to restrict it to a certain level, say. Figure shows trade balance curve XX, which is drawn for this level of trade balance. XS curve shows all the combination of output and exchange rates at which the current account balance will be equals to, or CA is equals to x minus m is equals to x bar. Note that this XX curve is upward sloping, indicating that a rise in output increases imports and worsening the trade balance, or CA is less than. To maintain CA is equals to, currency has to depreciate to increase exports and to balance out the current account. Note that at any point above XX curve, CA is greater than or there is trade surplus. At any point below the XX curve, there is trade deficit or CA is less than. This is so because the economy attains both external and internal balance at point O. Any point above XX curve implies exchange rates have depreciated, leading to increased demand for domestic goods. Similarly, any point below XX curve means that exchange rates have appreciated, making domestic goods expensive and worsening the trade balance. We now study the impact of fiscal policy change on an open economy in short run. In the short run, economy is operating below full employment level of output. So, any policy change that changes output level will be effective to expand the aggregate demand and output in the economy. Suppose there is a fiscal expansion. The way we have formulated the equation of goods market equilibrium, fiscal expansion can take the form of either increase in government expenditure, reduction in taxes, or a combination of both. Fiscal expansion leads to increase in aggregate demand and output in the economy. Figure shows how the equilibrium level of output and exchange rates will change with the fiscal expansion. DD curve showing goods market equilibrium will shift to the right from D0 D0 to D1 D1. There is an increase in aggregate output and income, which increases money demand. In the money market, given the real money balances and domestic price level, there will be excess of money demand over money supply, which will push the interest rates upward. Given the world interest rates, expected exchange rates, and foreign price level, this will increase the demand for domestic currency, making the nominal exchange rate to appreciate. The new equilibrium level of nominal exchange rate is E1. Thus, with the fiscal expansion, there is an increase in equilibrium output and an appreciation of the nominal exchange rates. Note that the new equilibrium attained at point 1 is below XX curve. There is trade deficit as rise in income or output and appreciated exchange rates increases imports over the exports. Opposite will be the case if there is a fiscal contraction. Now, we study the impact of monetary policy change on an open economy in short run. Suppose there is a monetary expansion. Figure shows the analysis. An increase in money supply will shift the AA curve to the right from A0 A0 to A1 A1. Aggregate output increases to Y1 and exchange rate will depreciate from E0 to E1. Economically, an increase in money supply, given the fixed price level, brings money market disequilibrium. Individuals have more money. This pushes the interest rates down, below the world interest rates. Economic agents will find foreign currency to be cheaper in comparison to the domestic currency. Given the world interest rate I star, to maintain interest parity condition, exchange rates have to depreciate. A depreciation of exchange rates makes the domestic goods cheaper in comparison to foreign goods and hence trade balance improves. Thus, aggregate output increases in the economy from Y0 to Y1. The new equilibrium level of the nominal exchange rate is E1. Thus, with the monetary expansion, there is an increase in equilibrium output and depreciation of the nominal exchange rates. Note that the new equilibrium attained at point 1 is above XX curve. There is trade surplus as depreciation of exchange rates increases exports over the imports. This is true because we assume Marshall-Lerner condition to hold true. Opposite will be the case if there is a monetary contraction. Note that in the short run, economy is below full employment level of output. Both fiscal and monetary policy expansion can help the economy to move to a higher level of output. Now moving on to the long run analysis, We begin by studying the impact of fiscal policy change on an open economy in the long run. In the long run, the economy is operating at the full employment level of output. Any expansionary policy change will have no effects on the output level. Consider an increase in fiscal expenditure which shifts the DD curve to the right from D0 to D1. The economy will move from point O to point 1. Output will be above full employment level, and there will be an appreciation of exchange rates. In the goods market, this appreciation of exchange rates will make the domestic goods expensive, worsening the trade balance. In the money market, it will change the expectations about the exchange rates. To maintain interest parity condition, expected interest rates e to the power small e falls, or individuals will expect the exchange rates to appreciate further. This shifts A0 curve to the left. Since the economy is operating in the long run, output cannot be increased beyond the full employment level of Y star. This means that exchange rates have to appreciate enough so that it counterbalances the effect of increase in output due to fiscal expansion. Thus, an appreciation of exchange rates and the fall in the expected exchange rates brings the economy back to its full employment level. Nominal exchange rates, however, have appreciated from E0 to E2. Thus, in the long run, even if there is no change in the domestic price level, change in the expectations about the exchange rates brings the economy back to full employment level. Note that the new equilibrium is attained at point 2, which is below XX line, indicating a trade deficit. This happens due to the appreciation of the exchange rates. Finally, we study the impact on monetary policy change on an open economy in the long run. Consider an increase in money supply in the long run. Figure shows the dynamics. An increase in money supply shifts AA curve to the right from A0 to A1. The new equilibrium is at point 1. However, at point 1, output Y1 is full greater than the full employment level of Y star. This pushes the price level to rise. This has two effects. In the goods market, an increase in price level makes the domestic goods expensive in comparison to foreign goods, leading an increase in imports and a reduction in exports. This reduces aggregate demand and output in the economy, shifting DD curve from D0 to D1. In the money market, a rise in the price level reduces the real money supply, making AA curve to shift backwards, say to A2. The two curves, DD and AA, will continue shifting until they together determine the new equilibrium where output is equals to full employment level of Y star. This is attained at point 2. At point 2, output is back to its full employment level. Exchange rates have depreciated from E0 to E2. Due to this, the economy faces a trade surplus. Point 2 lies above the XX curve. Thus, with monetary expansion in the long run, prices and exchange rates have risen without any change in the output. Note that in the diagram, exchange rates first depreciated to a level of E1 and then adjust to get down to E2. They increase beyond their long run level. This is called overshooting of exchange rates.
Let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Trade balance gives the excess of country's demand for exports over its imports. Marshall-Lerner condition states that depreciation of exchange rates will lead to an improvement in the balance of trade if the absolute sum of the long-run export and import demand elasticities is equals to or greater than 1. Upward sloping demand curve shows goods market equilibrium in the output exchange rate space. Downward sloping AA curve shows money market equilibrium in the output exchange rate space. Upward sloping XX curve shows the trade balance in the output exchange rate space. In the short run, fiscal or monetary expansion leads to an increase in output. In the long run, fiscal or monetary expansion has no effect on output.